There are places in this world that feel truly untouched, ancient, wild. The deep backcountry of the Canadian Rockies is one of those places. For my partner, Sarah, and me, it was our sanctuary, a place to disconnect from all the noise and get back to something real. We were experienced hikers, planners, meticulous about it. We followed every rule, took every precaution. We respected the wilderness. But we learned something on the third night of our trip. The wilderness doesn't play by our rules. And sometimes you don't know you're in a game until it's way too late. Deep in the Rockies, we thought we were completely alone. For 2 days, that solitude was a gift, just a profound, peaceful silence. But on our third night, that peace was shattered by a sound that to this day I can't get out of my head. The slow, deliberate pull of our tent zipper from the outside. Our journey started at a remote trailhead in Banff National Park, far from the crowded paths. We had our backcountry permit for a specific random camping zone, an area where there are no designated sites, which is why most hikers stick to the main campgrounds. We were aiming for a secluded spot near a glacial lake that very few people visit each season. The first 2 days were exactly what we'd hoped for. The air was crisp, tasting of pine. The landscape was unreal, just jagged, snow-dusted peaks stabbing a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. We saw elk in a meadow, a bald eagle overhead, and the only sounds were the wind and the crunch of our boots. Each evening we had our ritual. We'd find our spot, at least 50 meters from the trail and 70 from our water source, just like Parks Canada tells you to. We'd set up our small, sturdy tent. Then, the most important job, food safety. We cooked dinner far away from where we slept and stored every single thing with a scent, food, garbage, even our toothpaste, in a bear-resistant container. Then we hung that from a cable system we brought way away from our tent. We were doing everything by the book. There was no reason to feel anything but safe. On that third evening, the sunset was just spectacular. It lit up the mountains in orange and pink. As the last light faded, the stars came out. Not just a few, a thick, glittering blanket of them. More stars than I'd ever seen. A deep sense of peace just washed over us. We were two tiny people in this vast, beautiful wilderness that didn't know we existed. Inside our tent, zipped up in our sleeping bags, the mountain silence was a lullaby. We felt so secure in our little nylon dome. We fell asleep to the whisper of the wind, feeling completely and utterly alone. And for a few hours, we were. It was sometime after midnight when the first wrong thing happened. I was pulled from a deep sleep by a sound. It was sharp, sudden, close, a single, loud snap. My eyes shot open. It was pitch black inside the tent. I lay perfectly still, straining my ears, my heart starting to thump against my ribs. My first thought was animal, of course. A deer, an elk maybe. Stepping on a dry branch made sense. We were in their home. I nudged Sarah. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. She stirred, mumbling, "Hear what?" "A branch snap, really loud, right outside." She was quiet for a second, listening. Only the faint, constant wind. "Probably just a deer," she whispered back, her voice thick with sleep. "Go back to sleep." She was right. It had to be. I tried to settle down, to let the rational thought soothe the irrational fear prickling my neck. But sleep wasn't coming back. Suddenly, every sense I had was on high alert. Every normal night sound, the rustle of leaves, the sigh of the wind, now felt loud, loaded with meaning. That one sharp snap had broken the spell. The forest wasn't just beautiful anymore. It was a place that could hide things, a place where anything could be watching just beyond the thin wall of our tent. Still, I told myself I was just being paranoid. It was just a deer. An hour passed, maybe 2. I had just started to drift off when a new sound pulled me back. This one was different, not sharp. It was soft, rhythmic, and it made my blood run cold. It was breathing, low and steady,
a soft huffing right on the other side of the tent wall, just feet from my head. It was too deep for a small animal. My mind was racing. A bear, maybe? But we did everything right with the food. There was nothing to attract one. And the sound, it didn't feel like a curious animal. It felt still, like it was listening. I held my own breath, my whole body tensing up. I listened for other signs of a big animal, the shifting of weight, claws scraping the dirt. Nothing. Just that slow, steady breathing. I grabbed Sarah's arm harder this time. She jolted awake, sensing my panic. "What is it?" she whispered, her voice tight. "Listen," I mouthed in the dark. We both lay there frozen, listening. It went on forever, that slow rhythm of breath. Then I shifted my weight just a little bit, and my sleeping bag rustled against the tent floor. Instantly, the breathing stopped. The silence that came after was somehow worse. It was a heavy, loaded silence, a waiting silence. We just knew, with a certainty that made no sense, that whatever was out there was still there, and it knew we were awake. The minutes stretched on, and then came the sound that made all the hope drain right out of me. Footsteps. Slow, heavy footsteps circling our tent. And this wasn't an animal, not a four-legged one anyway. There was no shuffle, no animal rhythm. It was a clear, two-footed pace. Thump, pause. Thump, pause. Someone or something was walking around our tent, on purpose. It circled us once, then twice. We could hear the soft crunch as its weight pressed into the ground, getting closer with each pass. "Oh my God," Sarah choked, her voice barely a whisper. "That's a person." That realization was pure terror. A bear is a force of nature. A person out here in the middle of nowhere, circling your tent in the dead of night, that's a whole different kind of horror. That's intent, malice. We were miles from any road, from anyone. No one should be here. We were trapped with only a thin layer of nylon for protection. We had bear spray, but my mind was screaming, trying to figure out if I could use it on a person. Should we yell? Stay quiet? Look outside? We were just frozen, like prey that knows it's being hunted. Then, silence again. The footsteps stopped. That heavy, listening silence pressed in on us. It was the silence of something about to happen. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure it could be heard outside. Sarah had her hand clamped over her mouth. We were just waiting for a shout, for the tent to be ripped open, for a knife to slash through the fabric. But what came next was so much worse. It started with a tiny, metallic jingle, the sound of the zipper pull on our tent door, the little metal tab being held. A long moment passed, time just stretching and warping, and then we heard it. The sound that is burned into my memory forever. Zzz. It wasn't fast, it wasn't angry, it was slow, deliberate, agonizingly steady. The sound of the metal teeth separating one by one, the sound of our safe little world being torn open. Inch by horrifying inch, the zipper opened. We watched, paralyzed, as a thin line of starlight sliced through the darkness where the door had been. Cold night air rushed in, and with it, the undeniable feeling that something was right there. The sound kept going, unhurried. Zzz. It was halfway down. My mind was just screaming, a silent, white-hot panic. This was it. The barrier was gone. In a few seconds, whatever was on the other side would be able to see us, to reach us. In that split second, something in me just snapped. The paralysis shattered, replaced by pure, desperate adrenaline. I didn't think, I just acted. "Get away from us!" I screamed, my voice cracking with terror. "Who's there? Get out of here!" The zipper stopped. Instantly. Silence. Not the listening silence, but a shocked, dead silence. The open slice of tent flap was just a pale gray slash in the blackness. We held our breath. My hand fumbled for our heaviest flashlight, and I gripped it like a weapon. And then we heard the footsteps again, but not slow. They were fast, crashing away from the tent, breaking through the woods, retreating back into the darkness until the sound was just gone, swallowed by the huge silence of the mountains. We didn't move for a long, long time. We just sat there, shaking, listening to our own hearts. I wanted to look outside so badly, but the fear of what I might see was stronger.
Slowly, with a trembling hand, I reached out and pulled the zipper shut. Sleep was impossible. We huddled together for the rest of the night, jumping at every gust of wind until the first hint of dawn lit up the sky. The second it was bright enough to see, we didn't even make coffee. We tore down our camp in a frantic rush, just stuffing everything into our packs, our eyes scanning the tree line, constantly watching the shadows. We didn't talk. We just moved. The hike out was a paranoid nightmare. Every snap of a twig, every shadow sent a jolt of fear through me. We didn't stop until we got to our car, threw our packs in, and locked the doors. Only then, speeding down the gravel road, did we finally let ourselves fall apart. We made it out of the Rockies, but we left our peace of mind back there. We filed a report with the park rangers. They took us seriously, wrote it all down, but what could they do? No other reports? No one else was in that zone? There was no evidence to find, no footprints they could pick out from the forest floor. It was just our story against the silence. We've asked ourselves the question 1,000 times. Was it a person with some dark motive? Some local who hates hikers on their turf? Or was it something else? The most terrifying part is we'll never know. There's no face to put on the fear, no reason to analyze. There's only the cold memory of that sound. We haven't been backcountry camping since. The magic is gone for us, replaced by this dread that just sits in the back of my mind. The wilderness isn't a sanctuary for us anymore. It's a place that keeps secrets, a place where you're not just alone, you're exposed. And we'll never, ever know what was on the other side of that zipper.